A declaration of war was not the objective. The strategy was far more direct: eliminate those trafficking narcotics into the country. The order was clear. They were to be neutralized. 30 million lives, the potential death toll from a single fentanyl seizure in Arizona. The scale of the bust was immense. While global conflicts held the world's focus, a covert war was escalating on American soil. The administration launched a sweeping offensive targeting the flood of illegal narcotics crossing the border. According to Homeland Security, the operation concluded with 372 arrests, uncovered $24.7 billion in illegal profits, and seized 3.4 tons of fentanyl in one night. This success, however, led investigators to a chilling question. How long had the network been protected from within the system? It was a question the investigation was poised to answer. CBP Director Michael Humphre of the Port of Nogales confirmed that smugglers were deploying highly creative tactics in Arizona. 3:08 a.m., Beverly Hills, California. An unnatural stillness had fallen over Beverly Hills, a deep silence blanketing one of the nation's most affluent enclaves. Streetlights illuminated a gated community nestled in the hills, where a private road ended at a 12,000-square-foot mansion of modern limestone and glass. It was fortified by surveillance cameras and imposing perimeter walls. 2 luxury SUVs and a dark sedan were positioned under the covered entryway. To a casual observer, it was the residence of a powerful executive or real estate mogul. But 2 blocks away, 23 unmarked federal vehicles stood ready. Tactical teams waited, concealed within the manicured landscape. Communications were live, weapons were checked. A drone streamed thermal data to a command post 3 blocks away. On monitors, agents from the FBI, DEA, Homeland Security, and ATF, alongside Treasury investigators, tracked all movement. 9 heat signatures moved methodically inside the residence. For 22 months, Commander Jonathan Mercer's covert investigation had watched this home and 44 others across 6 states. In less than 4 minutes, all teams would breach their targets simultaneously. The operation's codename, Iron Dominion, and what authorities were about to uncover inside that Beverly Hills estate, combined with 44 other raided locations, would become one of the most significant cartel operations in the history of U.S. law enforcement. 3:11 a.m. All units confirmed final readiness. Across 6 states, the signals came in one after another. Dallas was a go, Chicago a go, San Diego a go. The strike achieved complete surprise. Several cartel members opened fire attempting to flee, but federal units quickly secured the compound. As the operation concluded, federal agents had apprehended 372 suspects and traced $24.7 billion in criminal profits. They seized 3.4 tons of fentanyl, enough to annihilate a major American city, and that was merely the opening chapter. The central question became how this sprawling network operated for years without being detected, because what investigators would find next left even the most hardened federal prosecutors in absolute silence. The event marked one of the largest fentanyl seizures ever recorded. The Drug Enforcement Administration works daily to intercept fentanyl before it reaches American streets. The investigation that culminated in the Beverly Hills raid did not start with a tactical breach, billions of dollars, or hundreds of suspects. It started with an anomaly, a detail so small it was almost dismissed. 17 months earlier, at an inspection point near the Port of Los Angeles, officers flagged a shipment declared as dietary supplements. It held 8,200 counterfeit pills, which later tested positive for fentanyl. The packaging was crude, the labels were inconsistent, and there were no valid tracking codes. The shipment led back to a company registered in Nevada, Silver Peak Nutraceuticals LLC, an entity reporting $10.6 million in annual revenue, ostensibly as a distributor of health products in Southern California. On the surface, the business appeared legitimate, but analysis of the details revealed glaring irregularities. The sender's address belonged to a defunct corporation. Payments were funneled through 3 accounts within 48 hours. Each transfer was engineered to stay just under federal reporting limits. The listed recipient was a manufactured identity. This was the first fissure in their defense. As the investigation grew, a sinister pattern began to materialize. In 5 months, 27 additional consignments were flagged at ports throughout California. All were expertly disguised as oxycodone, manufactured to perfectly imitate authentic medication. The seizure totaled over 190,000 pills, a lethally significant amount. Investigators knew it was a sliver of a vast, clandestine operation. The volume wasn't their primary concern. It was the methodology. Each shipment operated on a nearly identical, precise timeline. Every money transfer was identically layered, and each company involved was a hollow, legal shell. This was no ordinary trafficking ring. This was a carefully constructed machine. Cyber units reverse-engineered the financial system, and their findings were worse than they had imagined. They found over 1,200 transactions funneled through shell companies and consulting firms, and even non-profits, all leading to a single, hidden command. The case had just entered a new dimension, because deep in the records was proof the network wasn't just protected. It was run from the inside. A single question now dominated the investigation. Who was the architect? The truth was now unavoidable. This was not a cartel penetrating the system from the outside. This was a betrayal from within. A $7 billion criminal enterprise was coming into focus. Inside a secure room, FBI specialists began dissecting the mountain of data. The task quickly escalated into one of the largest data examinations in recent federal operations. Over 18 terabytes of records, emails, transfers, and encrypted texts were combed through meticulously. At first, the data seemed random, filled with small, routine payments. But a pattern emerged from the chaos. More than 1,200 payments had been methodically structured, each between $9,000 and $49,000 to avoid federal flags. The money moved through 67 ghost companies in 4 states. Many were registered to vacant lots. Others had no discernible employees whatsoever. The final tally revealed over $310 million in criminal transactions. Then, analysts found something that brought a dead silence to the room. A single authorizing signature. It belonged to Governor James Walker, a public figure known for his integrity. But there was more. A share of the money was funneled to political consulting groups and nonprofit fronts, funding the campaigns of at least 12 officials. As they sifted through logs, one codename kept appearing. There was no identity, just a designation, Anchor. It was found in over 240 encrypted messages. The name was tied to all critical junctures, scheduling, routing, and key approvals. Records showed Anchor collected over $31.7 million for signing off on fraudulent clearances. This process allowed 1.2 tons of narcotics, disguised as supplements, to enter the U.S. By mid-morning, federal leadership made a move they had hoped to avoid. A case born from 8,200 pills had now led them to the governor's doorstep. For the investigators, the gravity was absolute. The case had crossed into dangerous territory. This was no longer about drug trafficking. It was about political subversion at the state's highest level. And once that boundary was crossed, it ceased to be a simple investigation. It became a confrontation with the very system they had taken an oath to defend. At this stage, all doubt was gone. This wasn't one case, it was the entire system. At 5:02 a.m., less than 24 hours after securing the final piece of evidence, a synchronized federal operation was launched. Over 480 agents from the FBI, DEA, and other federal teams were deployed at once. The objective was absolute: to completely neutralize the network. Within 3 hours, warrants were served at 61 locations, from private homes to corporate offices and financial institutions. Every target was the product of months of intense surveillance and intelligence. Every breach occurred at the exact same second. In California, a federal unit closed in on a fortified private compound that was under secret watch for weeks. Thermal imaging showed multiple individuals inside. In less than 4 minutes, the property was under control. 10 individuals were detained. Upstairs, 7 slept, oblivious. One suspect made a move for a weapon, a desperate dash down a corridor. He was neutralized before reaching an exit. Then came a discovery that altered everything. A hidden basement. A space that didn't exist on paper held 3 bodies. In what looked like a wine cellar, a canine unit signaled something was wrong. A reinforced wall. Concealed by a custom steel panel, crafted to look like shelving, agents found a hidden vault, almost 420 square feet. Inside, 720 kilograms of fentanyl, pressed into bricks. Nearby, over $5.2 million in vacuum-sealed cash. But the true discovery lay past one final barrier. Thermal imaging exposed a void deep below the foundation. They breached reinforced concrete slabs to find the mouth of a narrow tunnel, stretching nearly 280 feet beneath the property. Its destination, a nearby warehouse registered as a beverage company. Inside the tunnel, agents located sealed containers. One held what was later identified as a cartel coordination ledger, meticulous records of shipments, transfers, and coded points for over 60 distribution hubs across the United States. Another container held sealed legal papers. Some displayed what appeared to be forged judicial signatures, tied to federal cases in multiple jurisdictions. At a Houston warehouse, a separate team seized manufacturing equipment and 5 encrypted computers, still warm. The operators had vanished only moments before entry. The total seizure: 26 hard drives, 31 firearms, and an industrial pill press, still hot. But this was only the beginning. The evidence was about to lead them somewhere much darker. What the records would reveal next was not just a network, but the hidden human price. By 8:17 a.m., the scope was staggering. 372 individuals were in federal custody. Among them were senior administrators from state-affiliated programs, business owners, financiers managing layered funds, and several figures with direct ties to the governor's inner circle. In Sacramento, under heavy federal watch, the core of the operation came into focus. The state's sitting governor, a powerful political figure, was arrested. The indictment against him had been sealed by a federal judge. It listed conspiracy to distribute, obstruction of justice, and funding a criminal enterprise. From his residence, agents recovered over $9.6 million in cash, encrypted devices, and private logs, along with records tied to offshore accounts. Another $86 million was later traced to hidden entities. Across the entire operation, the numbers continued to escalate. Federal teams had seized over 3.4 tons of narcotics, including fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, roughly $420 million in assets, and over 270 encrypted devices used for interstate logistics. But the true damage wasn't measured in dollars or kilograms. It was measured in the shattering of public trust. Investigators confirmed oversight systems had been intentionally compromised. Inspections were stalled, shipping lanes were cleared, monitors were bypassed. It was all by design. For years, the network had operated with absolute impunity. It wasn't invisible, it was protected. As the news broke, the fallout was immediate. Officials statewide scrambled to review contracts, freeze accounts, and suspend staff. Emergency measures took effect within 48 hours, including mandatory disclosures, independent audits, and federal supervision of key state functions. At the federal level, prosecutors began to build one of the most complex cases in a generation. Preliminary filings suggested potential sentences up to multiple life terms for the central figures. As the investigation deepened, a stark reality emerged. An organization that earned tens of billions and moved thousands of kilograms of deadly narcotics and reached the highest office in the state didn't fall from a single mistake. It collapsed under the weight of its own truth. For the public, the revelation was a chilling one. For the system, it was a day of reckoning. Because this case was never just about narcotics, it was about the corrosion of power, the true cost of reclaiming control. The story of Iron Dominion is more than a chronicle of a massive bust. It is a haunting reminder of the fragile line between protection and betrayal. It serves as a profound lesson on the erosion of integrity and the devastating human cost of silent complicity. The shadow of betrayal. When those sworn to protect the public, the anchors of our society choose to harbor the very poisons they should eliminate. The damage transcends narcotics. It shatters the foundational bond of trust between a people and their leaders. This investigation reveals a chilling truth. A system is only as strong as the character of those within it. Power, when detached from a moral compass, becomes a weapon of mass destruction. A call to vigilance. We must understand that the fight against the fentanyl crisis is not just a battle fought in dark tunnels or at border crossings. It is a battle for the soul of our institutions. We are reminded that true security requires relentless transparency and the courage to confront corruption at the highest levels. Let this be a wake-up call. We must remain vigilant, demand absolute accountability, and cherish the truth, because when the system fails, it is the innocent who pay the ultimate price. Reclaiming control begins with a single, unwavering commitment. Integrity is non-negotiable.